Niner, 4, 3, dead.
Get in position and wait for my go.
Hello everyone, I'm Chris Erickley and welcome to the PE Crime Blotter, a weekly look at crime here in the Inland Empire. We begin with crime headlines. A 41-year-old pastor who carried on a sexual relationship with a Marietta girl has been sentenced to more than 9 years in prison after pleading guilty as part of a deal with prosecutors. Matthias Anderson lived in Hemet and was the founder of New Wine Ministries in Oceanside. He was arrested in November and charged with numerous accounts of lewd acts with a child under 14 and other offenses. He pleaded guilty Friday to 3 counts of lewd acts with a minor and was ordered to register as a sex offender. Riverside police have released sketches of 2 people they are saying targeted Spanish-speaking women in the city with a lottery scam. The 2, a man and a woman, usually approach their victims with a story about how the victim can share in a guaranteed lottery win if they first produce cash for their portion of the winnings. The victims are then convinced to go with the scammers to a lawyer's office, but are first obliged to stop at a bank and get the necessary money. Once the perpetrators have the money, they flee in their vehicle, which has been described as a gray or light-colored SUV, possibly a 4Runner. The San Bernardino County DA's office says a Norco physician arrested on suspicion of sexually assaulting 2 female patients at Loma Linda University Medical Center will be tried on the charges. 35-year-old Dr. Ramon Fazri Farquhar was arrested August 31st after he surrendered to sheriff's deputies at the West Valley Detention Center in Rancho Cucamonga. The sheriff's department said Farquhar was booked for investigation of several charges related to the sexual assault. The DA's office says he will be tried on the charges of sexual penetration by a foreign object, sexual battery, and elder abuse. And that does it for crime headlines. Up next, the Inland's Most Wanted. It is now time for the Inland's Most Wanted. We're taking a look at the most wanted criminals in both Riverside and San Bernardino County. Joining me now, the Press Enterprise's John Asbury. John, our first guy out of Moreno Valley, Carlos Alberto Capuzano.
Capuzano is accused of molesting 2 young sisters between the years of 2000 and 2004. The girls came forward in 2009 to say that he began touching them when they were about 10 years old. Police have been trying to reach out to him ever since and have been unsuccessful. He's accused of rape by force.
And now we move out to the Coachella Valley. A couple guys out there in Indio, Ivan Velasquez.
Right. Ivan Velasquez is accused of raping an ex-girlfriend. She said that he used a key to enter their old apartment. Once he forced himself inside, he forced her into a bedroom where he tied her up with a pair of shoelaces in his pocket, turned up the stereo, and raped her for about 15 minutes.
Then in Palm Springs, Javier Padilla.
Right. Javier Padilla is also accused of child molestation between the years of 2001 and 2005. Girl said that she was molested about 100 times between the ages of 7 and 11 years old. And she made a couple phone calls to him that were recorded by police. And during those phone calls, he apologized for his actions, but also said that he was going to Honduras.
Now, if anyone has any information on these cases, where can they call?
Authorities are asking anybody with information to call 855-21-CATCH.
All right, John, thanks for joining us. That does it for this week's Inland's Most Wanted. Coming up next on the docket. It is now time for our On the Docket segment. We're taking a look at the big court cases in both Riverside and San Bernardino County. Joining me now is the Press Enterprise's Rich Diatley. Rich, our first case, one that many people are very familiar with. It involves Earl Ellis Green, the man accused of murdering former Riverside police officer Ryan Bonaminio.
Right. This is a Thursday hearing to see where the case is. Right now, jury selection in this matter is set for April 9th. They want to see where attorneys are and whether that date will happen. Bonaminio was slain during a foot pursuit of a suspect at the edge of the city's Fairmont Park in November of 2010. Green has pleaded not guilty. He faces the death penalty if he's convicted.
In our next case, Twin Peaks State Assemblyman Tim Donnelly.
Right. Donnelly was stopped on early January at Ontario International Airport. TSA authorities said he had in a carry-on luggage a loaded .45 caliber Colt semi-automatic handgun. He has pleaded not guilty to the misdemeanor charges that followed. His attorney, who is former Riverside County District Attorney Rod Pacheco, says he's trying to work out a plea deal with prosecutors in the case. They're back in court on Thursday.
Finally, our last case happened right here in Riverside just about 2 weeks ago, a street racing crash.
Jesus Javier Gomez, he's pleaded not guilty to gross vehicular manslaughter and DUI in this matter. Authorities said the car he was driving was going at 120 miles an hour when it crashed. A passenger in the car was fatally injured.
All right, Rich, thanks for joining us. Be sure to keep us updated on the latest on those cases. That does it for On the Docket. Coming up next, crime updates. A man walks into a bank armed with a military-type rifle and clad in body armor and leaves minutes later with cash. The scenario played itself out February 29th in Chino and again last week in Vacaville, a city just off Interstate 80 halfway between San Francisco and Sacramento. On March 9th, a man dressed the same way and armed with an assault rifle attempted to enter a bank in Sacramento but was stopped by the employee security door. Now dubbed the AK-47 Bandit because of the type of rifle he carries, FBI agents and local police say the man in all three incidents could be one and the same, but they are still trying to positively nail down the robber's identity. A 58-year-old Menifee man accused of killing a neighbor's chihuahua with a golf club pleaded not guilty earlier this week to felony animal cruelty. Larry Hariki is accused of striking and fatally injuring the 6-pound dog, which had gotten loose in the neighborhood January 26th. Sheriff officials said the attack on the dog was unprovoked. His lawyer, Paul Greek, said Hariki, who is retired from a career as a school administrator, was going through a difficult time and feels badly about what happened. The owner of the Chihuahua, 69-year-old Barbara Hitchman, was in Riverside court for Hariki's arraignment. She says she just hopes that Hariki gets what he deserves. An Orange County man was found guilty in Riverside Superior Court last week of luring 40 girls to send him nude photos on MySpace and kidnapping a 13-year-old Moreno Valley girl for sex. Because multiple victims' allegations was found true, 34-year-old Joshua David Threlkild faces potential life imprisonment when he's sentenced next month for 80 counts including kidnapping, lewd acts with a child under 14, and multiple child pornography charges. Well, that does it for this edition of Updates and also concludes this week's PE Crime Blotter. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.